The galaxy was on the edge of destruction. Earth, once a symbol of humanity's strength and resilience, was now the last bastion of the human race. The alien Galactic Empire had launched its final assault, sending fleets of warships equipped with advanced AI and devastating weaponry. Their ships, far superior to anything humanity could produce, surrounded the planet like a cage, cutting off any chance of escape. The once glorious human fleet had been pushed back into the corners of space, dwindling in numbers as they fought desperately to protect the planet they called home. Captain Jonah Reed stood on the bridge of the command ship, watching the battle unfold outside the window. The sight was devastating. Alien warships loomed in space like cold, mechanical monsters, firing deadly beams of energy that tore apart human ships in seconds. His own fleet, a ragtag collection of outdated ships, was being methodically picked apart. Jonah's jaw clenched as another ship was obliterated in the distance, an explosion lighting up the void of space. The humanity he had sworn to protect was being swallowed whole by the relentless advance of the alien forces. His heart sank with every loss, knowing that their chances of survival were slipping away. The human resistance was in chaos. Jonah's officers worked tirelessly to keep the remaining fleet operational, but their efforts were futile against the overwhelming strength of the enemy. The aliens' warships were equipped with cloaking technology, advanced eye-controlled weapons, and energy shields so powerful that even the strongest human weapons were useless against them. With each passing minute, more ships fell, and the situation grew increasingly dire. Jonah's thoughts were clouded with doubt. How much longer could they hold on? His fleet was outgunned, outnumbered, and outclassed. The aliens were relentless, firing their deadly beams at Earth's last orbital defenses. The once impenetrable shields were beginning to crack under the pressure, and Earth's last line of defense was rapidly disintegrating. It was only a matter of time before the alien forces would breach Earth's atmosphere and rain destruction upon the planet below. As Jonah watched the battle unfold, he couldn't shake the feeling of hopelessness. Every time they thought they had the upper hand, the enemy would strike back with even more ferocity. His officers, once confident and determined, were now silent, their faces pale as they braced for the inevitable. Jonah felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him, knowing that the fate of the human race rested on his shoulders. Then, just as the situation seemed at its worst, a strange message flickered onto his command console. Jonah froze. The message was brief, cryptic, and unexpected. "Trust the shadows. Help is coming." He stared at the screen, disbelief creeping into his mind. Who could be sending this? And what did it mean? There was no time for answers. Jonah's hands hovered over the console as his heart raced. Could this be a sign of hope, or just another cruel trick? He had no idea, but deep down, he knew there was no room for hesitation. The message had to mean something, and despite the uncertainty, Jonah chose to trust it. "Sir, we're losing the last of our defenses," one of the officers shouted, snapping Jonah back to reality. "We need to retreat, now, Before he could finish, a massive explosion shook the command ship, sending waves of energy throughout the hull. Jonah's grip tightened around the console as he braced himself. The lights flickered, and alarms blared, signaling a direct hit to the ship's core. The bridge crew scrambled to maintain control as panic set in. Jonah's first officer, Lieutenant Emma, rushed to his side, her face pale but determined. "We're not giving up, Captain," Emma said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "We can still fight. We have to." Jonah nodded, forcing his voice to remain calm. "I know, Lieutenant, but we need a miracle." The aliens weren't giving them any time to recover. Another energy beam fired from the alien flagship, striking Earth's defenses once again. This time, the orbital shields cracked wide open, and the space around Earth became a deadly battleground. Human warships were torn apart as if they were nothing more than toys. The situation was rapidly spiraling out of control. Jonah watched helplessly as one of his closest friends, a fellow captain, sent out a final distress signal before his ship was disintegrated in the blink of an eye. His heart sank, the weight of their losses heavy in his chest. But then, as if on cue, the message appeared again, this time accompanied by a strange signal. A pattern of energy pulses coming from deep space, far beyond the reach of the enemy's detection systems. Jonah's instincts screamed at him. Something was coming. His fleet was on the verge of collapse, but this strange signal, this mysterious help, offered a glimmer of hope. He couldn't waste another second. Jonah ordered the fleet to regroup, but the enemy was relentless. Alien warships surged forward, their beams of energy lighting up the sky like deadly fireworks. The human fleet fought back with every last ounce of strength, but the difference in power was too great. Jonah's heart pounded in his chest as he watched Lieutenant Emma, who had been by his side through every battle, take a direct hit from an alien weapon. She crumpled to the ground, her body bleeding, but she forced herself back to her feet, determination burning in her eyes. "I'm not leaving you, Captain," she said through gritted teeth, her voice weak but unwavering. "We can still win this." Jonah's breath caught in his throat as he knelt beside her, trying to assess her injuries. But before he could say anything, another blast shook the ship, sending the entire crew tumbling to the ground. The fight was slipping away. The enemy was closing in, and their weapons were too powerful for the human fleet to stand against. But in the midst of all this chaos, Jonah could not shake the message. Trust the shadows. What did it mean? Could it be referring to something he didn't understand, something hidden from their eyes? Just as he was about to give the order to retreat, the impossible happened. A series of ships, long thought destroyed or lost, appeared from the depths of space. They were cloaked, undetectable to the enemy, silent, like ghosts in the darkness. The human fleet had always known. There were rumors of a secret fleet, a hidden armada built in secret, but Jonah had never believed it was true. But now, those very ships were here. "Get ready, Captain," Emma whispered, her hand gripping his shoulder. "Help is here." Jonah's heart surged with adrenaline. Could this mysterious fleet really be the answer to their prayers? As the cloaked ships materialized out of the shadows, they unleashed a hail of devastating fire upon the unsuspecting alien ships. The tide of battle was about to change, and humanity's last hope had just arrived. Jonah's mind raced as the cryptic message echoed in his mind. Trust the shadows. What did it mean? Could there really be help, hidden from the eyes of the alien invaders? As Earth's last line of defense crumbled, and the enemy's warships circled above like vultures, Jonah knew that he had no choice but to follow the message's instructions. It was humanity's last hope. He ordered the remaining fleet to fall back to Earth's surface, where the remnants of humanity's hidden weapons lay buried. Jonah had heard rumors of secret research programs, weapons and ships constructed in silence, far beyond the reach of the alien empire's spies. But those were just stories. Stories about this shadow fleet, a fleet of warships so advanced that they could rival the most powerful alien warships in existence. Jonah had dismissed them as nothing more than fantasy. But now, as Earth's final defense was breaking apart, those stories seemed more like the only truth left in a galaxy on the brink of extinction. The journey to the hidden bunker was a tense one. Jonah and his crew moved in secrecy, cloaking their ship from the alien fleet. They knew that the enemy's advanced sensors could detect anything in plain sight, so they traveled in the shadows, avoiding detection at all costs. Every second felt like a lifetime, and the weight of responsibility was heavy on Jonah's shoulders. This was their last chance. If the bunker held what he hoped, humanity could stand a chance against the overwhelming power of the alien empire. The journey took them deep into Earth's forgotten underground complexes, where the bunker had been hidden away from prying eyes. As Jonah and his crew stepped into the darkened depths, the air felt thick with tension. The silence was unnerving, broken only by the sound of their footsteps. They were far beneath the surface now, in a place that hadn't seen the light of day in decades. Jonah's heart pounded in his chest as they reached the heart of the complex. The secret hidden fleet. What they discovered there was nothing short of extraordinary. Rows upon rows of sleek, silent warships sat in the shadows, their metallic surfaces glinting faintly in the dim light. These were not the outdated ships Jonah's fleet had been using. These were state-of-the-art vessels, unlike anything humanity had ever deployed. Each ship was equipped with advanced cloaking devices, making them invisible to even the most sophisticated alien sensors. Their energy shields were stronger than anything the Galactic Empire could ever hope to deploy, and their AI systems were more advanced than the enemy's by far. Jonah walked through the hangar, staring in awe at the ships. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. These were the weapons that would give humanity a fighting chance. The hidden fleet had been built in secret, developed over decades by the best scientists, engineers, and military strategists that humanity had to offer. But for years, these ships had remained dormant, waiting for a time when humanity would need them most. Now that time had come. Jonah's mind raced as he realized the enormity of what he had just uncovered. This fleet, unknown to the alien empire, was humanity's last hope. It wasn't just a fleet of ships, it was humanity's weapon against the tyrannical AI that ruled the galaxy. The stakes had never been higher. This was the moment that would define humanity's survival. If they didn't succeed, Earth would fall, and humanity would be wiped out by the very forces they had once hoped to defeat. Jonah felt a surge of determination. He had to rally the remaining soldiers, to inspire them, to make them believe in this mission. He wasn't just commanding a fleet. He was leading humanity's last stand. With his voice steady, Jonah addressed his crew and the soldiers who had joined him on this mission. "This is it," Jonah said, his voice carrying through the hangar. "This is our last chance. The enemy doesn't know we're here, but that will change soon. These ships, this fleet, they're ours, and they are our weapon against the Empire's tyranny. We are the last line of defense, the final barrier between humanity and total annihilation. We fight for Earth, we fight for our future, and we fight for freedom." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. For the first time in days, there was a glimmer of hope in the eyes of the soldiers. They weren't just facing overwhelming odds anymore. They were about to launch the greatest counterattack humanity had ever known. Jonah's gaze swept over the crew as they prepared the ships for launch. They moved with purpose, with determination. They knew the stakes, and they knew the risks. But there was no turning back. The time had come to take the fight to the alien invaders. As the crew worked tirelessly to prepare the fleet, Jonah walked through the hangar once more, his thoughts turning to the battle ahead. The alien empire was ruthless, and their forces were vast. But now, for the first time in this war, Jonah felt a spark of hope. These ships, these shadow vessels, would give them the edge they needed. The Galactic Empire had never encountered anything like this, and they wouldn't know what hit them. The fleet began to power up, their engines humming to life as the cloaking devices were activated. Jonah watched as each ship disappeared into the shadows, their outlines fading into nothingness. The cloaking technology was flawless, rendering the fleet completely invisible to the enemy. As the last ship in the fleet vanished from sight, Jonah felt a surge of pride. This was it. This was their moment. The hidden fleet, unknown to the alien forces, was humanity's secret weapon, and they were about to unleash it upon the enemy. The silence in the hangar was broken by the voice of Lieutenant Emma, who had been by Jonah's side throughout the chaos. "Captain, we're ready," she said, her voice steady despite the pressure of the moment. "Let's do this." Jonah nodded, his heart pounding in his chest. "Let's show them what humanity can do." With that, the fleet moved into position, ready to strike. The alien forces had no idea what was coming. The first sign of hope had sparked, and the final battle for Earth's survival was about to begin. As the fleet prepared to launch, Jonah couldn't help but feel a mix of anticipation and fear. This was humanity's last stand, and he was leading it. He only hoped that it would be enough. The enemy was closing in on Earth, but now Jonah had a fleet of ships that could turn the tide. The final hour was upon them, and humanity's future rested in their hands. The atmosphere was thick with tension as Jonah and his fleet waited in the dark void of space. Every nerve in his body was on edge. They had emerged from the hidden bunker undetected, their cloaking devices working flawlessly. Earth's last line of defense, what remained of their fleet, was nearly shattered. They had only one chance to strike before the aliens unleashed their final assault on the planet. The alien forces were closing in, unaware of the impending danger. Their massive warships loomed over Earth, their energy weapons primed and ready to fire. Jonah knew that once the first shot was fired, Earth would be lost. But as the minutes ticked down, Jonah felt a surge of hope. The hidden fleet was ready. Just as the alien ships prepared to launch their devastating assault, something extraordinary happened. Without warning, the human fleet emerged from hyperspace, their cloaking devices deactivating in unison. The first shockwave hit the aliens, an invisible ripple that spread through the air like an electric charge. Their radar systems, designed to detect anything within light years, failed to register the appearance of the human ships. The aliens were caught completely off guard. Jonah watched as the alien commanders scrambled to react, their AI-driven strategies unable to account for such an unexpected move. The ships surrounding Earth were momentarily frozen in disbelief, unsure of what had just happened. They had never encountered an enemy capable of disappearing and reappearing without warning. And then, in an instant, the fleet uncloaked. Massive warships, their dark metallic surfaces gleaming under the distant stars, came into view. The sleek, angular shapes of the human ships seemed to pulse with an ominous energy. The powerful shields surrounding each ship hummed, ready to absorb any incoming attack. It was as if the very fabric of space itself bent in response to their arrival. The scene was breathtaking, almost surreal, as the fleet emerged from the shadows like a ghostly apparition. The silence that followed the shockwave was deafening. The alien fleet, once so confident in its strength, was now facing an enemy unlike any it had ever imagined. For a moment, there was confusion on the alien side. Their radar systems blared, searching frantically for the human ships. The vast network of AI-controlled warships had always been able to predict enemy movements, but this time they were blindsided. Jonah knew that the first moments of this battle would decide everything. Then the humans struck. Jonah's ships opened fire with terrifying precision. Advanced energy weapons, developed over years of research and secrecy, sent beams of concentrated plasma tearing through the alien fleet. The energy beams cut through the space between them, lighting up the dark void with bursts of blinding light. Explosions erupted across the enemy fleet as the alien ships struggled to react. Their once impenetrable armor began to buckle under the relentless onslaught of the human weapons. The battle was a chaotic dance of destruction. Jonah's fleet moved with calculated grace, their AI systems and advanced robots coordinating each attack. The human ships were far more agile than their alien counterparts, and their advanced targeting systems locked onto enemy ships with deadly efficiency. The robots, equipped with both offensive and defensive capabilities, worked in perfect harmony with the human pilots, taking out the alien fighters and warships one by one. Each strike was a precise blow to the heart of the alien fleet, and every explosion was a step closer to victory. But the aliens were not so easily defeated. Despite the shock and confusion, their commanders quickly regained control of the situation. Their own AI systems adapted, issuing new commands to counter the surprise attack. Massive alien warships fired back with their own devastating weapons, launching powerful energy blasts toward the human fleet. The dark sky erupted with the light of incoming fire, but the human ships were ready. The advanced energy shields on Jonah's fleet absorbed the blasts with remarkable efficiency, allowing the ships to press forward despite the alien retaliation. The battle quickly escalated into a full-scale war in space, with ships dodging, weaving, and exchanging fire at impossible speeds. Jonah watched in awe as his crew engaged the enemy with unmatched skill, pushing the alien forces back. Despite their best efforts, the aliens were outmatched. Their ships, though powerful, were not prepared for the speed and precision of the human fleet. Jonah's strategy was working. His forces were systematically dismantling the alien fleet, one ship at a time. But the enemy was relentless, and the fight was far from over. The aliens counterattacked fiercely, their eye-controlled ships launching massive swarms of drones to overwhelm the human fleet. Thousands of alien fighters filled the space between the two fleets, swarming toward the human ships in a deadly wave. Jonah's heart raced as he saw the tide begin to turn. The alien forces were vast, and their numbers seemed endless. Jonah's fleet was holding strong, but the relentless waves of alien drones were starting to take their toll. The human ships fired rapidly, cutting through the drone swarms, but more and more kept coming. The battle was growing more intense by the second, and Jonah knew that they couldn't afford to let their guard down. Every move they made, every decision, could mean the difference between victory and defeat. With a deep breath, Jonah barked orders to his fleet. "Push forward. We can't let them regroup." The human ships surged forward, dodging incoming fire and launching precision strikes at the heart of the alien swarm. Jonah's eyes locked onto the largest of the alien warships, a behemoth of metal and energy. It was the command center of the alien fleet, and if they could take it down, the rest of the enemy forces would fall apart. Jonah's fleet concentrated their fire on the warship, sending a barrage of energy blasts hurtling toward its core. The alien warship fired back with devastating power, but the human ships were relentless. Jonah watched as the massive warship began to crack under the pressure, its shields flickering and its energy core destabilizing. Just as the alien warship seemed on the verge of destruction, the tide of the battle shifted again. The remaining alien forces unleashed their final assault. With everything they had, they pushed forward, hoping to crush the human fleet before it could deal a final blow. Jonah gripped the controls of his ship, his knuckles white from the pressure. The outcome of the battle was still uncertain, and though humanity had dealt a blow to the alien fleet, the fight was far from over. The human fleet had gained some ground, but the battle was far from over. The alien forces, though rattled by the unexpected appearance of the secret fleet, quickly regained their composure. The silence of space was now shattered by the deafening roar of weapons fire, as the two sides clashed with all their might. The sky, if one could even call it that, with the vast emptiness of space surrounding them, was a canvas of brilliant flashes and dark shadows. Jonah watched the battlefield unfold before him, his mind sharp despite the chaos around him. The human fleet was still outnumbered, their ships much fewer in number compared to the nearly endless array of alien warships. But the humans had a secret weapon, cloaking devices and advanced eye-controlled countermeasures. These technologies, developed in secrecy on Earth, gave them an edge the aliens hadn't anticipated. The human ships moved like ghosts, appearing from the shadows to strike swiftly and disappear before the aliens could retaliate. Jonah's fleet continued to dance around the alien warships, weaving through incoming fire and striking with deadly precision. The AI systems aboard the human ships coordinated their efforts seamlessly, directing energy blasts and guiding missiles with pinpoint accuracy. The alien ships, despite their advanced technology, were struggling to keep up with the sheer unpredictability of the human assault. But Jonah knew they couldn't win by merely dodging and striking. They needed to hit the heart of the alien forces, the command center of their fleet. The alien flagship, this ship, massive and imposing, housed the AI core that controlled the entire alien armada. If they could destroy it, the alien fleet would crumble, and Earth would have a chance at survival. Jonah issued the order, and his fleet began to maneuver into position for the final assault. All ships, target the flagship. We take it down. We end this war. Jonah's voice was filled with determination as he barked orders. The human ships shifted course, their cloaking devices flickering to life once more, disappearing from the view of the alien sensors. As the human fleet closed in on the flagship, the alien forces realized what was happening. In a frantic attempt to stop them, the alien commanders issued commands for a full-scale orbital bombardment. Massive fiery projectiles rained down from the skies, streaking through space with devastating speed. The energy blasts erupted with force, hitting several of the human ships and causing them to explode in brilliant bursts of light. Jona's heart raced as he watched the destruction unfold. His fleet was taking heavy losses, but he couldn't stop now. They had come too far. It was then that disaster struck. Lieutenant Emma, Jonas' second-in-command, was at the forefront of the attack on the flagship. She had always been one of the most skilled pilots in the fleet, and her calm, strategic mind had been a guiding light through the chaos. But now, in the midst of the orbital bombardment, disaster struck. One of the alien warships locked onto Emma's ship, launching a devastating barrage of energy blasts. Her ship was struck directly, the blast ripping through its hull. Jonah watched in horror as her ship spiraled out of control, flames engulfing its engines. Emma. Jona's voice cracked as he saw her ship tumble into the depths of space, her life sign vanishing from the monitors. A pang of grief stabbed through him. Emma had been more than just a soldier. She had been his closest ally, his right hand through this entire war. And now she was gone. The loss hit Jonah hard, shaking him to his core. But there was no time for mourning. The battle was far from over. The death of Emma, however, served as a catalyst for Jonah. He could feel the weight of her loss, but he knew that he couldn't allow it to consume him. Her sacrifice had to mean something. It was up to him to ensure that her death wasn't in vain. With fire in his heart, Jonah led the final push toward the alien flagship. His fleet had suffered heavily, but their resolve was stronger than ever. The humans would not go down without a fight. As the last few ships rallied together, Jonah felt the presence of Emma's memory guiding him, urging him to keep fighting for the survival of their people. The alien forces, realizing the human fleet was closing in on their flagship, retaliated with everything they had. The orbital bombardment intensified, and the alien warships launched an all-out offensive. The alien ships came at the human fleet in waves, determined to crush them once and for all. Jonah's ships, battered but unyielding, fought back with everything they had left. The battle reached new heights of intensity as explosions rocked the battlefield, lighting up the dark void of space. Jonah watched as more of his ships were destroyed, their crews lost in the blink of an eye. He could hear the reports coming in from his fleet, the voices of his soldiers crackling over the comms as they fought for their lives. But Jonah didn't falter. He couldn't. The lives of everyone he cared about depended on him. As the final assault on the alien flagship commenced, Jonah's fleet unleashed everything they had. Advanced energy weapons fired, missiles streaked through the black void, and every weapon at their disposal was used to push through the alien defenses. The flagship's shields flickered under the pressure, but they held, barely. The aliens fought back with relentless fury, but Jonah's resolve was stronger. He watched as the first of the alien flagship's outer defenses gave way, and then the second. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the core of the alien flagship was exposed. Jonah's fleet poured every last bit of their firepower into the exposed core, launching a concentrated barrage that tore through the flagship's defenses. The alien ship shook violently, its shields collapsing under the onslaught. The core, the very heart of the alien fleet, began to destabilize. It was then that Jonah saw it, a massive explosion rippling through the flagship's hull, sending shockwaves through space. The flagship, the AI core that controlled the entire alien armada, was finally destroyed. The battlefield went silent for a moment. The shockwave from the explosion rippled outward, and the alien fleet began to break apart. The humans had won, but at what cost? Jonah's chest tightened as he watched the wreckage of the alien flagship, a mixture of triumph and grief filling him. He had won, But his heart ached with the loss of Emma and so many others. Their victory was hard won, and it would never be forgotten. But the war wasn't over, and the cost of freedom had never been clearer. The final battle was upon them. Jonah stood at the helm of his ship, staring out into the vast expanse of space. The alien flagship, now crippled and vulnerable, drifted like a wounded animal. The battle had raged on for hours, the stakes higher than ever. Jonah knew that this was their last chance. His fleet had been battered, their numbers diminished, but they were far from defeated. This was humanity's moment, their chance to finish what they had started and reclaim their world from the grasp of the alien invaders. The message from Emma, the memory of her sacrifice, pounded in Jonah's mind. Her death had ignited a fire inside him, a burning desire to see this through to the end. She had given everything for this fight, and he would not let her down. He would lead his fleet to victory, no matter the cost. The order came down through the comms, and the remaining human fighters and warships surged forward. With their advanced technology and AI-controlled systems, they moved as one, an unstoppable force heading directly for the alien flagship's exposed weak points. Jonah's voice echoed over the comms as he gave his final orders. All ships, attack with everything you've got. We end this now. The human ships closed in on the flagship, their cloaking devices flickering and disappearing as they reappeared in full force, attacking with relentless fury. The alien flagship, already heavily damaged, was struggling to defend itself against the onslaught. Its shields, weakened by previous attacks, flickered and sputtered under the pressure. Energy beams lashed out, but the humans were faster, their AI systems predicting the alien movements with deadly accuracy. The scene was chaos, an explosion of sound and light as the battle raged. Ships collided, their hulls groaning under the pressure of the impacts. Beams of energy sliced through space, lighting up the dark void with brilliant flashes. The air was thick with the hum of weapons fire, the crackle of shields deflecting incoming blasts. Each explosion sent shockwaves rippling across the battlefield, sending smaller ships spinning into the void, lost to the darkness. It was a violent, chaotic dance, and at its center stood Jonah, determined to see this fight through to the end. As the human ships closed in on the alien flagship, a massive breach appeared on its surface. Jonah could see the hull of the flagship, once smooth and impenetrable, now marred with gashes and cracks. The human fleet had done its job. The alien defenses had been shattered, and the flagship was now vulnerable. But Jonah knew this was just the beginning. From the breaches in the flagship's hull, human soldiers, both organic and robotic, poured onto the surface of the ship, engaging the remaining alien forces in close-quarters combat. Advanced AI units, programmed to fight with ruthless efficiency, took the lead, cutting down alien soldiers with surgical precision. The human soldiers, though few in number, fought with the desperation of those who had everything to lose. Their weapons blazed as they fought their way deeper into the alien flagship, each step bringing them closer to their final objective, the destruction of the alien AI core. Jonah's own ship maneuvered closer to the flagship. He knew this was the moment. He could feel the tension building in the pit of his stomach as he prepared for the final assault. The death of Emma, the fall of so many good men and women, it all came rushing back to him now, fueling his every decision, his every move. He would not fail them. The flagship's defenses were failing. Its shields were down, and the remaining alien warships scattered in a futile attempt to regroup. Jonah's heart pounded in his chest as he ordered his ship to close in on the heart of the flagship, where the alien general, an AI entity that had been the mastermind behind the entire invasion, awaited. Jonah knew that defeating the alien general was the key to ending this war. With the AI's control shattered, the remaining alien forces would collapse, and humanity would emerge victorious. The final confrontation was inevitable. Jonah's ship docked with the flagship's outer hull, and he led a small group of soldiers through the breach, their weapons raised and ready for what lay ahead. They moved quickly, navigating through the twisting corridors of the flagship, their footsteps echoing in the silence. The corridors were dark, illuminated only by the flickering lights of the ship's failing systems. The air was thick with the smell of burning metal and scorched electronics, the remnants of the battle that had raged for hours. At the heart of the flagship, Jonah found the AI core. It stood before him, a massive, glowing sphere of energy encased in a network of cables and machinery. It pulsed with an eerie light, sending waves of cold, mechanical energy through the air. And standing before it, seemingly as one with the core itself, was the alien general, an entity of pure AI, its consciousness woven into the fabric of the alien invasion. The general turned its cold, metallic eyes on Jonah as he approached. Its voice, distorted and robotic, echoed through the chamber. "You think you can defeat me? You are nothing but ants in the face of true power. Your resistance is futile." Jonah's grip tightened on his weapon. His heart was racing, his body aching from the relentless battle. But his resolve was unwavering. "I'm not here to talk," he said, his voice steady despite the weight of the situation. "I'm here to end this." With that, Jonah launched himself at the general, his soldiers moving in to flank the AI entity. The battle was brutal. The alien general fought with inhuman speed and precision, its eye-controlled body moving like lightning, its energy blades slicing through the air. Jonah dodged the first few strikes, narrowly avoiding the glowing blades as they slashed through the air. He could feel the heat from the energy beams as they passed by him. But Jonah was fueled by something greater than just survival. His grief, his anger, and the memory of Emma's sacrifice pushed him forward. He fought with everything he had, his movements sharp and decisive. The alien general was strong, but Jonah's determination was stronger. With a final, desperate strike, Jonah pierced the core of the general's AI body, shattering its control over the fleet. The alien general let out a final screeching cry as its systems overloaded, sending sparks flying in all directions. The AI's form crumbled, its consciousness dissipating into the ether. The flagship's systems began to destabilize, and the alien forces that had been under the general's control fell into disarray. Without their commander, the remaining alien ships scattered, easy prey for the remaining human forces. Jonah stood over the fallen AI, his chest heaving as he looked around at the devastation. The battle was over, but it had come at a great cost. Jonah's eyes lingered on the wreckage of the flagship. The victory was theirs, but the weight of the lives lost, Emma's, his crew's, the countless others, was a burden he would carry forever. The war was over, but the scars of the conflict would remain. And as the remaining human fleet gathered in the aftermath, Jonah knew that humanity had won, but at a price they would never forget. The alien fleet, once thought to be an unstoppable force, was now a shadow of its former self. After the loss of their leader, the AI general, and the destruction of their flagship, the remaining alien ships were disoriented and vulnerable. They had been left in chaos, their command structure shattered, and their morale broken. The once mighty fleet that had threatened to annihilate humanity was now retreating, fleeing in all directions, desperate to escape the wrath of the human forces. The sight of the enemy ships scattering, broken, and defeated was a victory that sent waves of relief through Jonah's entire crew. The tide had turned, and humanity had triumphed. Jonah stood at the command center of his ship, staring out at the vast expanse of space. The remnants of the alien fleet were now just distant specks, retreating into the darkness. The battle had been long and brutal, but the end had come. The war was over. It was a moment of hard-earned victory. Jonah's heart swelled with pride, but there was also a heaviness in his chest, a weight that would never fully leave him. He had led humanity through its darkest hours, but the cost had been steep. He thought of Emma, his second-in-command, who had given everything to ensure their success. Her death, her sacrifice, had been a turning point, a catalyst that had driven him to push forward when everything seemed lost. He would carry her memory with him, a constant reminder of the price of freedom. The surviving members of the crew stood beside him, their faces weary but filled with a quiet sense of relief. They had done it. They had fought against impossible odds, and they had won. There were no words for the emotions that flooded through Jonah as he looked at his crew. Each one of them had given everything for this cause, and now, standing together on Earth's surface, they could finally take a breath. The world was theirs once again. The alien grip that had threatened to suffocate humanity was gone. As the survivors looked up at the stars, Jonah's thoughts turned inward. The war had taken so much from them. So many brave men and women had lost their lives in this fight. Emma was just one of many. He could still hear her voice, still feel the weight of her loss. But in her sacrifice, she had sparked something in him. She had shown him what it meant to fight, not just for survival, but for a future. She had believed in the cause, in the idea that humanity could rise above the challenges they faced, and Jonah had to believe it too. They had proven that they could fight and win, that even against a technologically superior enemy, they could overcome. But the war had been only one battle in a much larger fight. Jonah knew that the true test was still ahead. The galaxy had witnessed what humanity was capable of, but there were still challenges to come. The alien forces would not simply disappear, and there were other factions out there, waiting for their chance to strike. Humanity's victory had been a crucial step, but it was only the beginning. The road ahead would be long, and it would demand even more sacrifices. But for the first time, Jonah felt a sense of hope. It was a quiet hope, born from the ashes of battle, but it was there, flickering in his heart. The human spirit had proven itself, and it was unbreakable. The victory over the alien fleet had not just saved Earth. It had ignited something greater. It had shown the galaxy that humanity was not just a weak, vulnerable species to be exploited or crushed. They were fighters. They were survivors. They were resilient. This victory, hard-won and costly, had set a precedent. It had proven that humanity would not go quietly into the dark. They would rise, again and again, no matter the odds. As Jonah stood there, looking up at the stars, he thought about the future. The victory had been hard-fought, and the scars of the war would remain. But those scars were a reminder of their strength, of their ability to endure. The sacrifices made were not in vain. They had secured their place in the galaxy, and no one could take that away from them. The fight for freedom was not over, but Jonah was ready for whatever came next. He knew that humanity, united and resolute, could face anything. The stars above seemed to shimmer with a new light, a light of possibility. Jonah's eyes lingered on them for a long moment, the weight of the past still heavy on his shoulders, but the promise of the future glimmering in the distance. The war was over, but the journey was far from finished. There would be new challenges, new battles to fight, and new victories to win. But for now, humanity had earned this moment of peace. Jonah turned away from the stars, his gaze shifting to the survivors gathered around him. He could see the same hope reflected in their eyes, the hope that had been born from their shared struggle, their shared sacrifice. They had fought for Earth, for their families, and for each other. And now, they could begin to rebuild. They could start again. "Let's go home," Jonah said quietly, his voice filled with determination. There was still work to do, still much to be done. But they had proven that no matter what the universe threw at them, humanity could and would rise above it. With that, Jonah and his crew began their journey back, ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that they had already overcome the greatest challenge of all.